Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another Webinar Wednesday hosted by CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. This is Managing Your Small Business Beyond the Pandemic, webinar number 125, since going back to actually March 18th of 2020. So we got a great topic today. We got a great guest, got some information to share, some things to update, and then just get into a really good entrepreneurial discussion. So that's where we're headed today. And today is August the 3rd, 2022. This year's just trucking right along, isn't it? So today we're going to have a great discussion on the art of building a sustainable business. And I think we have a wonderful case study going back 40 years to kind of analyze, look at the pros and the cons, the strengths and the weaknesses, the good and the bad, all of operating and building a sustainable business here in the heart of the Southern San Joaquin Valley. So we'll talk a little bit about our capital quarter today, and then we're going to kind of not look at a few of the financial ratios. So we're going to kind of move a little bit over and kind of look at a few of the programs that are coming up and a couple of things that are happening. Our economic corner will look at kind of job demand, which is slacked, and also recession. Our marketing moment, it's our marketing Maven Marine, will be postponed this week. We're going to postpone that in the interest of time. Thank you, Maureen. We're going to need our full hour today, and so we'll cut back and some of the other areas as well. We'll talk a little bit about what's in the news, and let's do that now. Seems like the only thing in the news right now is House Speaker blows the world. So Taiwan, I have a special connection with Taiwan. 2007, found it to be a wonderful place to vacation, to go and see the sights, wonderful sights, great cities. Taipei, went to Taichung, went to some national parks, Taroko Gorge, Sun Moon Lake, a wonderful sunrise, and great people. That's what I remember most about Taiwan. And they love their Americans in Taiwan. Being an American in Taiwan, there's not a lot of American tourists there, and particularly when you get out of Taipei, the capital, but in Taipei you'll find some great museums. Visited then, and this was in 2007, Taipei 101, which was a 101 floor skyscraper, the tallest building at the time. It didn't take much time for it not to be. But at that time in 2007, the largest building, the highest building in the world. And so, you know, it's great to show support for some nice people in a wonderful place. But really, let's move on to some more business news, right? So we're going to also have an update today on remaining programs that are out there. And some of those remaining programs are pandemic-related programs that still are kind of out there and available for individuals and business owners to take advantage of. And as always, we'll take your questions. We hope you have a lot of questions for Morgan today. And also we'll do a poll. So let's jump into that poll right away. Just an easy poll today, because we're talking about building sustainable businesses. And so when I talk about sustainable businesses, I know all of the different hats that are required of small businesses in order to successfully run that business. So we're going to ask it just a two-part question, easy question today. And it's going to be based on what is your favorite task or responsibility in running or managing your small business? And then on the same token, what is your least favorite? And if you don't see one of the four options there, go ahead and put your choice in the chat and we'll go pick that up. So we're going to launch this particular poll today. What is your favorite task or responsibility in running or managing your small business? Is it sales, marketing, social media? Is it the finance, accounting, tax part of it? Is it personnel management? Or is it strategy, execution, and leadership? So again, we're looking for what your favorite, or maybe it's your strength. It might not even be what your favorite aspect is, but you think that is the strength of your particular aspect of running the business. And then you can even go down and put your least favorite. And if we don't have yours there, feel free to go jump in the chat and to put it in there, and we'll visit that at some time during the hour. Okay, let's see. We have about half of you in right now, 50%. So feel free to take a moment or two and jump in and answer, what is your favorite task or responsibility running or managing a small business? Sales marketing, the sales marketing function, the tax accounting function, personnel management, and the strategy, putting that strategy, execution, and leadership. And then again, your least favorite. So, and maybe if I just inverted, your favorite, I could almost come up with that, but we'll see how that works. So we do have 65% of you in. Last call to get in on this week's poll question with 65% of you in. We're going to end the poll and share those results with you. And there you go. Your favorite is strategy and leadership, setting that strategy and providing leadership for that organization. Nearly 2/3 of you thought that is the most enjoyable favorite or strength that you have. And then what we have is we have sales, marketing, and social media coming in next at 14%. And bringing up the rear is the finance, accounting, and tax. 10% of you is a favorite. And 10% of you like the personnel and management function side of things. So again, if none of those fit for you, go to the chat box and jump in there. And so we also now see our least favorite. And it was kind of a dogfight between our two losers of the favorite task, and that being personnel management and finance and tax. So, okay, I see that. I see we are at 33% for personnel management, 29% for finance, tax, and accounting, and 5% of you for leadership. So thank you for that. And we are going to get our chat box going here in a minute. Apparently it's been throwing us a glitch that only allows the panelists to get into that particular function. So fortunately, we do have manning the controls behind us. We do have Maureen Busher-Dang, and she as being the producer for today's webinar. So as I try to multitask and make her a co-host where she can fix that, and we'll open the chat box up and roll right on down. So thank you for participating in the poll today, and let's move along. Let's move along with some of an update on our key programs and status. And we'll have that chat box open for you in a moment where you can put those in. So let's start with the California Performing Arts Grant, because it is on top. So the California Performing Arts Grant has been open for 3 weeks right now. It's a first come, first serve, and it's out of the State Office of the Small Business Advocate for the state of California. We've gone to it the last 3 weeks, so we probably won't do this today, but there is an opportunity for you to, if you do think that you are a nonprofit and could benefit from a grant from the Performing Arts Grant, what you need to do is you need to see lindustry.com, or actually to Google that and you'll find more information. If you need more information on that, contact us here at the SBDC. The California Dream Fund continues to show a lot of interest. I believe we're in our 4th training cohort as the Central California region. And if you are interested in going through the training, providing a business plan, and going through one-on-one consulting, contact us at sbdc@csub.edu. We're going to talk a little bit in a few minutes about the State Small Business Credit Initiative. And that's the $10 billion in the last stimulus program that went from the US Treasury to the Treasury office here in the state of California to the tune of about $1 billion for these small business, both funding and also venture capital based programs. And so we'll pull that up in a few moments and maybe get some input from our guest as well. The Kern County Micro Grant Program and the Mono County Grant Forgivable Loan Program are both open. If you're in Mono County, see either the Jeff Simpson, the Economic Development in Mono County, or Jeff Lucas, their consultant who is working on that. But a very nice based CDBG based program that is working to provide grants and forgivable loans to businesses in Mono County. The Employee Retention Credit, remarkably, is still open retroactively. Retroactively meaning you can go back to September 30th to 2021 is the last quarter it was open, but you can file an amended return, amended payroll tax return 941. And this is really where we saw a lot of businesses really be confused about it at first, but then be able to get in and to be able to use this particular program. We advise you to contact either your accountant or tax professional, your CPA, or your payroll service. They're doing a lot of those. And we also recommend that you check what the fees are, because a lot of these are fee-based, not based on the hourly rate that it would cost you, but based on a certain percentage that could be really kind of more expensive than you would really want to pay. And lastly, the Cal Savers Mandatory Employment Program. If you hadn't signed up, you were due to sign up if you had 5 or more employees on actually 7/1 of this year. So probably a good idea if you haven't done that to do so. We are expecting some compliance and guidance in that particular area. So our California Micro Grant Program here for Kern County continues to go on with $2,500 for eligible businesses. Again, it must be your main source of income. So no side hustles, no 2 or 3 other self-employment ventures in addition to maybe working full-time. You know, here at the SBDC, we admire that, but you just don't qualify for this program. Sales have to be less than $50,000 back in 2019, which was the base year. The limited number of employees is generally about 4.5 employees on a full-time basis. And you could not, I repeat, cannot have received the California Relief Grant from Lindustry.com. So other conditions and apply for eligibility, and we'll get there soon. But there is a new kind of updated application. So some of the application processes have been recently relaxed as far as packaging these particular grants. Will kind of help. Our County of Kern actually does the determination based on guidelines that they receive from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. So again, this is for our smallest micro businesses that missed out on the California Relief Grant. And surprisingly, there's quite a few out there that have. And we do encourage you to contact us at the SBDC if you are one of these micro businesses, to look at the big picture for your business, to look at the opportunities that you might have to grow, including even leveraging your $2,500 grant into a smaller loan or a small business loan in order to even maybe grow your business either quicker or maybe at a more sustainable rate. And there's our phone form for more information. Mentioned you might want to send to the California Dream Fund. And I'm going to introduce Morgan, but let me just finish this up a little bit here. I thought I had a second slide because I already gave you the address, SBDC at csub.edu. But again, this is for $5,000 to $10,000 from the state of California, which they will pay for those that go through this particular program. Now, I am going to ask our guest for his comment on this, because I know that I at least believe that once you get into this and you complete a training program and you actually write a business plan and receive technical assistance, that oftentimes that is more valuable than $5,000 or $10,000 you're going to receive from this program. So again, entry in the training program does not guarantee funding. Funding is limited, and again, it goes through our friends at Lindustry.com. Okay, let's now bring in our special guest today. And it is a pleasure, as always, to bring in Morgan Clayton and see how easy it is to bring him in today. So there is Morgan, and Morgan is the founder, president, CEO of Tel-Tec Security Systems, Inc. It's a firm he started in 1982. Easy to talk about a sustainable business when it's been going for 40 years. They provide full service security to homes, businesses, institutions, Bakersfield throughout California and Nevada. Morgan said, and he told me this just a couple seconds ago, that seeing the young people grow into their new roles at this company is one of the most rewarding things of his family involvement. Long on community involvement, Morgan has received the cherished John Brock Award for distinguished community service and dedication to others throughout the Bakersfield and Kern County area. He has served on countless boards, commissions, and other nonprofit groups promoting for a better community. Morgan, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you on here today.
Kelly, I really want to thank you and just really appreciate that introduction. I think that, for the purpose of time, I'm going to really encourage your listeners to chime in on the chat. Basically, as I'm rolling through, and most of you know me, I love to talk. So just really kind of chat in on questions that you have. I'm going to roll out what I call high point, hopefully tools that'll help you to navigate through a lot of what we're navigating through. The last time, Kelly, you and I were together, one of my favorite themes was right person, right thing, right person, right seat, right thing. And what does that mean when we translate that into a kind of something to discuss? Tel-Tec is a family-owned business. And so when I talk about right person, right thing, and basically right person moving forward, here's what that looks like. In the transformation of where Tel-Tec is after 40 years, you now see Morgan Clayton, myself, the founder, moving more into a business development role. My daughter, Tasha Clayton, is now the general management and over personal management policy. She championed the COVID movement as we went through that. My son, Tyson Clayton, is basically handling all of the digital transformation and cloud-based app services that we're rolling out. And then my son, Kevin Clayton, is behind working on our social media. For those of you who might say, let me go online and look at the social media side, we're completely updating it. It's currently an old website, but when you see it roll out to the future, it will have a lot of exciting things on it. So that when I talk about this whole idea of right person, right seat, right thing, I'm talking about the right team of people to move you forward. And so that is kind of where I'm focusing. So when I think about where we're going, and Kelly, I'll jump into it, is everything as we know it will hit a ripple effect over the next 2 to 5 years. Our government, our industry, our small businesses, our families, and our work-life balance will change. All of us will be challenged, but there'll be new opportunities. And when I say that, here's an example. If I use Tel-Tec as an example in my experience of what's happened. When COVID hit, we had a 60% attrition. What did we do to sustain? I got with Tasha and got our leadership team together, and we took a deep dive into our leadership to talk about what could we do to basically keep ourselves working as we were deemed essential. So here are 2 quick points for your listeners. Plan A, what worked very well for us was that we cross-trained 3 layers deep in our organization. We currently have 60 employees, so you get a feel for that as small business. And the reason for the cross-training 3 layers deep was because we wanted to ensure responsive services to our customers while COVID was high and on its rampage across the city. And as a result of that, what we found was we also started experiencing what we call the out-migration, which was our talent, and I'm sure in other people's businesses, our talent started either getting sick or leaving. And so what is it that you have to do to ensure that you are prepared and ready to drive business forward? And so what I'd like to do, and I'll pause there for a minute to give it back to Kelly to see if there's a question. And if there is no question, I'll move right into it. Keep going? All right. When we look at this whole idea of the out-migration of talent, what we recognize is that we're entering into a climate of culture and impact on how we do business and retain talent. And I'm sure many of you out there have gone through that. When you look at Tel-Tec and you look at our service extension demographically, when we look at all of basically the Central Valley going to the coast, also the base of Nevada, and now moving into the North Dakota area, what we found was that the outmigration of talent, we were entering into a climate where cultural impact in how we do business and retain talent. And what we found was we were transitioning our focus in this one key element, which I think is important. You want to make note of this. Most of us in business focus on the return on investment. It is the reason why we strive for hard results and why we look for having a good bottom line to reinvest in our people and our services. But what we have done, people, is we have pivoted. And what we have pivoted to is RPT, a return on personal time. This whole idea of work-life balance is where you find people, as you start to look at finding people who want to work, people are saying family first, which I agree with, but yet they want to balance it. And when COVID hit, we all went to what? Remote work, which really put a huge disruptive trend, basically ripple effect in business. So what is it that Tel-Tec is doing? What did we do in this whole process of keeping ourselves connected, profitable, and result-based? We went through and we started executing more community engagement. We started basically talking to baby boomers. We were talking to Gen X. We were talking to millennials. Yes, we also talked to Gen X and also young baby alphas to discover new ideas of discovering services in our community, because we recognize that the disruption was out there. Now, when I talk about this whole idea of conversation and community engagement, it really talks about owning something. And one of the things that we did, I'll give you just one example. There's a young man by the name of Sam Nugent, which is one of my mentees, who attended USC. He is a club Tel-Tec leader. He had a vision, an idea about training youth across the city and how he could bring them to pickleball. I went to Mexico. I played pickleball. It's an amazing exercise, but he had a vision for bringing that across the city and all of our local parks. We sponsored him, and right now the program that he is doing is going very well, and he's giving a lot back to the community. And maybe Kelly can have him, along with others, come on later to talk about that experience, because it's really, really something fascinating about his vision. We simply funded the process so we could make it come to life. So one of the things I will share with your viewers, and then I'll pause here, Kelly, to see if there's any questions, is that people always have desires and needs. We all do. But the goal is this: how do we meet the needs of those? How do we meet their needs? Then how do we respond to those needs? And how will our resources work to make it? Here are the key things in business. You want to make sure that in the headwinds that are upon us, the headwinds, that you're effective, that you're efficient, that you're responsive, and that you have profitable results. And one of the things that we have found is, and this is probably something very unique, our next fifth piece is reinvestment in our youth. That is going to be the way we retain our talent and workforce forward. And so, Kelly, I'll pause and see if there's any questions to that, and then I'll dive into kind of how we do it.
Well, let's hit our question and answer box real quick to see if we have anybody from the audience. And it's more related to something else right now. So let's keep going. Okay. What are some of the lessons you learned, related to that through the pandemic? Was it really, is that where it came from? Is really the need?
Yeah, I think that what we found when the COVID hit, a big word was a big disconnect. What happened is most of us were not getting information quickly enough to respond. And so most of us who are family members found that you turned to family first and you took care of your families. But being in the healthcare boardroom, which is where I'm at, chairing and working with Mercy hospitals, we found that the number of people that got COVID, as well as maintaining the level of service in the hospital, created a huge disconnect. So what I saw was, one, a displacement of service, stress, mental stress, and a lot of things that impacted people so they couldn't work because they were stressed and some fatigue. So for me, I think that the key word was, how do we pivot to something that works? And I think the key word was opening communications to people in different ways online, doing things in different ways, which is basically visiting people and checking in on people by phone or by cell. And what I found for me, some of the keys in sustainability was to get my family together, and we created special projects. And that can be defined as something as simple as painting a room, It could be something as simple as doing reflection or doing Bible study, something you enjoy reading, but something that brings the family together so that no one feels like they're alone. So that's some of the things that we do.
Wow, innovative stuff.
Very innovative, yeah.
So did that help much with the employment? Did it help you retain some of your employment when many small businesses were going through issues on employment?
Yes, it did. I think for us, we had basically a high turnover in one of our areas, which is our comm center, because it was a 24-hour operating comm center. And as a result of people getting COVID or people experiencing COVID or people just wanting to leave, we found that we had to find people who were capable enough of providing the right service. So for me, it was going in and encouraging the employees, and the key word was coming alongside them and supporting them. You know what that meant? It's very simple. I showed up. I showed up every day to work alongside them to make sure they knew that leadership means showing up when other people are hurting, and leadership means showing up when other people are failing, but also what it means, leadership is at the bottom of the pyramid. We're there to hold the employees up while they're going through these situations, and we did that during COVID. And my daughter did it a lot well because she was involved in the policy piece while I was involved in the support piece.
Well, leadership is a heck of a base, that's for sure.
Yes, it is the foundation.
So, you know, before we go any further, why don't you give kind of like a little overview of Tel-Tec, about when you founded it. We talked about 1982. We can get into some of the issues going on there in a little bit.
Yeah.
But just give everybody kind of an idea. We know you now, you have 60 employees and you're expanding into North Dakota.
Yeah.
And so give us a background of the business.
Yeah, here's the background. Basically, when you look at Tel-Tec, you know that it has services that do security systems, fire systems, access control, camera surveillance, and there's a lot of people that provide those services in many different ways and many different cost structures. But for us, what is the thing that makes us unique and it's different is that we have a government-approved UL listed central station, which means all these monitoring services come in so we can connect to police department, fire department, and all of the emergency response services so that people have documented services that connect to their insurance companies. So what we have done from Tel-Tec is to build an infrastructure that allows us to maintain local services on a local level. But now here's the thing that's really interesting. Since we built the structure here, we have employees here, we found during COVID, we need to expand our services because we're finding supply chain is so disruptive and cost is so disruptive. So we're in the process of expanding to a 4,000 square foot warehouse that is going to be like a small Costco, where people can come in, buy the products, get the services they need, and have things done on time. So those are some of the highlights of what we're doing. The other highlights are when we start to look at our disruptive supply chain, is that we found out, quite honestly, I won't use names, but some of the largest suppliers in the country are no longer around. They are gone, or they have reduced their services to what I call a lifeline, where they're only doing what it takes to survive the business until we get through these headwinds. So for me, some of the key fundamentals in breaking it down very simply, we went to a core structure of leadership that have leadership results that could get quick results. We have core employees, 60 of them, that are solid in third level deep training so that they can help each other when there's a family problem or there's a maternity leave issue. And we now basically have partnered with our supply chain by having bulk services so we can be responsive to our customer base. That's what's happening today.
So along that line, what about your particular industry, the security industry?
Mm-hmm.
Has the security industry as a whole, is it better off now than it was before COVID?
You know, here's what I'm going to say yes in this framework. I think that for those security companies that are still analog based, they have a headwind problem because most of your technology companies have moved to digitization and to wireless, where if you're not on those platforms today using applications to apps, you are actually moving into an old school technology. The difference between having a horse and a train, or in this case, a jet. So for us, we have transitioned over to the digitalization through the bandwidth using that to provide services. So I would say most of our industries have gotten notification from AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, to where we've had the ability to navigate towards that. So I can say with the clients and the other competitive companies that I'm in partnership with, basically they're ahead of the curve. They're good. They've transitioned to the technology.
So I'm still fascinated by this this move into the market in North Dakota.
Yeah.
So one thing that we've been talking about a lot is, and I love it when you use the word opportunity, because I think throughout crisis, throughout good times, throughout bad times, there's opportunity.
Yeah.
So I think one of the opportunities that is out there, and I'm not using this for your particular business, but I would say somebody in a business situation like yours that is looking to expand.
Yeah.
And with other factors going on, like the grain of America and so many small business owners wanting to sell, that there is an opportunity to expand via acquisition.
Exactly.
So, I don't know if you've thought about doing that, or if you're doing that or anything like that, but is that something that would work either for you or something that you would look at?
Both. Basically, I'll share it in this framework. We have done probably 5 acquisitions where we have taken smaller companies who have found it difficult to digitize themselves in. And so we've helped them to transition their analog into our framework within our system. So that we're doing that constantly. The goal is finding the right bride, the right match, the right technology, so that basically you're not buying something but have to go and repair it. The other thing that we're doing that's exciting, and I'll share this going back to your comment, what do you do when you're notified by major clients that say, we are now terminating service on these X sites? And you go, well, did we do anything wrong? They say, well, no, we're transitioning to North Dakota and other places because it's a better work environment. And because of the relationship, people do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. They say, will you come? And so we sat down with our team and said, hey, what do you think? We collaborated. And so now we're providing services to energy companies and others in those areas because we understand each other, we understand what they expect, and we just basically have to perform. And so so the acquisition piece is happening, but also the remote transition piece is happening because we have to do that to sustain a high level of service.
Fascinating. Okay, so I'm going to go back to resharing my screen because we got more slides we can get into, and I want your feedback on some of this stuff. Sure. Because we usually do this little thing called Economic Corner. There it is. Okay. And what we're seeing this week in the economic news is that, of course, it's taken the backseat to everything that's about a plane flying into Taiwan. Yeah. And landing safely. So it's all good news. So, but what we see is businesses are still hiring, and businesses also are looking, but the demand for hiring has dropped to its lowest level since September.
Yes.
So what do you see out there?
I see the same. This is what I see. If I drive around Bakersfield, there are signs that say we're hiring. And we know that the demand for hiring is high. However, it's a drop. And I'll tell you what the key is. We need people who are motivated, who have the right attitude, and they have a desire to work. And the reason why businesses are hiring because they can't find the right talent. And talent is not necessarily a skill at this point. It's really the right attitude to work so I can show you how we expect things to be done. So I think in the environment in our particular community is, quite honestly, for a lot of subsidies to slow down, to allow the framework to come back in on the person who's sitting in the seat to realize that they have to learn to take care of themselves and go back to work. And I think that that's what we're seeing in the slowdown, is that people are still feeling that they can get some kind of benefit from our government as opposed to executing, going, finding a job. And I know there's a balance there, and I won't get into the politics of it, but there has to be a certain point where people realize it's time to take care of myself and go out and present myself in the industry to earn my own income.
Yeah, I heard that from a lot. I heard that opinion a lot. It's from a lot of business owners that were frustrated with a lot of the programs that were out there. It's nice to have a safety net. How big a safety net do you need?
I think food, water, the basic Maslow things, you have to have those. But there comes a point in one's life, and I use this all the time with my students. Your parents one day will say to you, we love you, we've given you good education, we've given you home and shelter, but when are you going to start taking care of yourself? And what that means is you start contributing. Now, certainly at home you contribute, but independence becomes moving out, showing the parents that you're continuing the legacy that you have, you've given to them by way of seed planting. So that part is where I think we have to turn this turning point of our government being the parent saying we got to take care and help people, which I understand. But I look at that towards the poorest in our community and the aging and the elderly. But those who have strong backs and strong minds and the ability to continue to learn need to find a passion, a spark of something they love to do and execute it by showing the right attitude. And again, right person, right seat, right thing. And people do business with people they know, they like, and they trust.
Could not agree with you more, my friend. Okay, so also what happened in the last week, a lot of things happening economic wise was that we had our second successive quarter of negative economic growth, which generally has been the definition for a recession. Yeah. And, you know, with that recession, let me go, well, that's interest rates and that's recession. So generally with the recession, you know, you don't have hiring and demand as strong employees. I think we were on this webinar a couple months ago saying, hey, you know, a recession might not be such a bad thing when you start getting laid off from a bigger company. It opens up opportunities for smaller employers to put people to work. Got it. So any thoughts on recession in your business and how it is, and it started in a recession. So,
you know, because we have a monitoring facility, I'm able to get data that a lot of people don't get. But let me put this challenge out there. I know that we have the headwinds of high increased costs, energy, gas, fuel. You talk to your auto industry, the transition there. But I think what we're in is a recession to transition. I think that what's happening is industry is listening to its customers, but it has to respond to market. And basically what's happening is we're all moving from the old way of doing business to the new digital transition way of doing business. And there's a cost of doing that in education, re-education, with compliance with the law in that transition, and getting people to a point where they have a soft land. I always use that term. So I think that the inflation part is very real, but I think the transitions part is real, and they both are having a ripple effect, as I said earlier.
Good, absolutely good. Okay, so this was a slide we used a little while back. Not that, because that just shows that you started your business during the very highest inflationary period of not only our lifetimes, but probably anybody's lifetime in the United States.
Yeah, learn how to cut costs. Yeah.
So on this one is 27 strategies for basically, and I know you and I had a discussion on this, and neither of us like the word recession-proof.
Yeah, no, recession-proof is not a good word because typically the headwinds are recession, inflation, interest rates. When all these things are moving around, everyone is in the boardroom trying to figure out how to stabilize it. Even our president's trying to figure that out. So you can't proof anything. What you can do is obviously cut costs, watch every dollar or penny where it goes, control your margins, and the key is cut waste. And cutting waste sometimes means, unfortunately, when you don't have growth, you go back to your core strong group until you can grow out of it.
Great strategies. Great strategies. There are actually some techniques on here that I do like of this. Obviously, people that know me know I'm a believer in cash flow planning, especially during periods of time where you're not, when you're unsure of where the cash is coming in from. And obviously you're a big fan, if we stick to the box on the left, of building up employee skills by actually cross-training 3 different times over. Anything else jump out at that box?
I think probably on looking at the box and key performance indicators, I think those are all result-based, based on leadership. Beat out the competition. I really find, let me flip this over. A lot of times, I don't use the word beat competition as much as reconnect with your customer base. And that is, make a call, check in on what people are feeling. And that's the good hygiene that I see. That's really checking in with the people who are paying you now. And as a result of beating your competition is simply based on, can you survive at a cost at what level? And so people, it just depends on where you are in the market, but those are pretty good. Be patient. I think that's, I think you have to be.
It's hard in a recession.
Well, you have to be active, Kelly. You really have to be on point. You have to get up early to figure out exactly where the headwinds are coming from, and you've got to be at the top of the trees to see above the forest and not be in it. And so that's important. So idea of being patient is patient for what?
Yeah.
So
So what do you like in the pre-planning box? Anything?
well, I think
Jump out?
know your liquidity options, which I think really is good to have a relationship with your bank so that you have your own cash flow conditions that you have to monitor through your aging. But I think also going back and establishing a second line of credit, as long as you're credit worthy, so that if the headwinds come, you have a fallback with your bank and you're able to continue through the headwinds. I love that one. That's good. I think being flexible with client agreements, especially in this environment now with a lot of leasing arrangements, I think it's good to talk because the government is giving obviously renters the ability to raise costs, but yet industry is feeling the pressure of reducing cost. So that is to me a good conversation piece. Not to say which way it'll go, but I think it gives leverage for both ends. Looking down.
Well, the downsizing inventory is being done for you by the supply chain.
That's exactly correct.
Chaos. So maybe you're downsizing inventory that you don't want to be downsizing, but that's happening anyway.
That's true. Basically, the key is that there's always a demand and a need, but downsizing is to take a walk through the inventory to say what's not needed anymore. For example, if you've got old analog product, old phones, old security products that no longer, quote, are usable, then you need to exit that off your plan. Downsizing inventory, that is a good way because sometimes you'll carry these old inventories on your balance sheet and you'll find out they're worth nothing, but you got to claim them.
Cultivating, what do you like in cultivating?
I think cultivating, which is what I love the most, I think cultivating is really getting out every day. I call it my 25 and 5 plan. You have a basic fundamental thing you have to do every day, which is to get results, but then you have to spend 10% of your time meeting someone new, making a connection with someone, i.e. opportunity, gives you the opportunity to grow. And that can only be done in new conversations and new opportunities. And I think that's really good for that. I really believe that.
Okay, I'll go with strategizing like you plan on selling the business. I like that one from the standpoint of by the time people get to the point to when they want to sell their business, they have a plan to do so. And their business doesn't have the value that they want it to have or they expect it to have. So maybe being able to strategize like you're going to be, and you know what that is that's just fine tuning a lot of your results.
Well, I think it's that, but I think it's if the idea is we all want to have our businesses where somebody wants it because that creates demand. So what that means to me is you make sure that your contracts are up to date. That means that your balance sheet is clean, which means you've paid down debt. It means that when you go into the boardroom and negotiate what you would like for the business, they see a clean purchase. What you don't want is a dirty closet, you know, where you just got a lot of muddle. So I think the niche down to that as we're looking at this is really take the pause, go back and look at what you have and ask yourself, if you didn't own it, you were going to buy it, what would you buy? And that's the difference between walking in the same organized inventory versus seeing a mess.
So I'm pretty sure in investing, you like the one in the middle, invest in adaptable technology.
Yeah, I think that being able to be adaptive, my son Tyson's taught me this. I think you really have to understand that thinking out of the box, because when you look at these different generations that I spoke about earlier, they have moved from face to face to now what I call technology touch. And you have to really be flexible enough to be listening and recognize that your future customers. And if you're not doing that planning now, you'll be ending up on the chopping block like a lot of large corporations that who didn't create the Amazon effect early.
Good point. Yeah. Okay, so trying to do a little bit of a new share here and go somewhere else.
Okay.
Zoom's not cooperating with me right now. All right. So we'll keep trying, but what I kind of wanted to do is I wanted to go over to kind of the web and just show you number one, the pandemic that you jumped into, that you got to purchase when you were, excuse me, not the pandemic, but the recession.
Yeah.
And here's kind of a really interesting, this is a recession we might not know for months, but it kind of really shows right here is the meat and the potatoes right here, this red ink. And it shows over time going back to 1980, and it shows you just the dire economic consequence. And there's no point in time in the last going back to this point, we're at this point right now. High inflation, and the only thing that is saving us is the strong labor market or the people that aren't actually wanting to work.
That's exactly correct. And what you're seeing in this graph that I see visually is when you look at history, oil was strong, ag was strong, and yeah, we have some ripple effects, but now today they've transitioned from what to solar energy power. And we're in the middle of that transition of what is it going to look like to provide those services, and the tightening down of industry saying it's a cost to do that. And who's going to bear the burden, and where is the high demand on the customer side? So I see this big change that we're all experiencing is a transitional change to a new platform of quality of life. And we're suffering through it because most of us are hand-to-hand combat people in what we do. And we're not used to using apps, which a lot of people are, but we are still a workforce using by hand, and we're moving to a hand by touch. And that's what the challenge is in that.
So looking at this graph, 90 and the 2000 recession, very mild. Obviously, 2007 with the financial crisis meltdown, a very deep recession, and one that kind of was less felt here. The recovery happened much faster in the Bakersfield area because of $100 barrel of oil.
That's exactly right. Agriculture, you betcha.
And ag.
So people have to remember who saved them when it was time. You had ag and oil that were able to distribute their oil and their services. We benefited from the tax base of that. And when you take that away without a supplemental of energy, whatever it is, there has to be something that will support our services. There has to be, or we go deeper in inflation.
That's right. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. So there's the financial market. I was self-employed in this period, this 10 year.
Yeah.
And I worked at CSU this 10 years, and I picked the wrong time to be self-employed and working because there was no safety net here or PPP or anything for this financial crisis, which if you look at the one that happened with COVID was deep and severe, but bounced back very rapidly into some nice growth before we started to get to the reading that we're at now.
Yeah, and I see that. Now, Kelly, here's the interesting thing. When you look at recessions, typically there's never been a subsidy big enough to keep people from going to work. COVID kept us from going to work. So the government comes in and does a subsidy, which we all say we get it for those who need it. But then after a while, you have to at some point say it's time to go back to work. And what does that look like? So most industry is pivoting to remote work. Some industries are trying to figure out how they need to look at remote work, and some are still trying to keep their doors open. And I think that is this whole new transition of what new business is going to look like. And I think we're right in the middle of it right now. I think we're in it now, trying to figure out what does success business models look like going forward.
Yeah, and I understand the CARES Act when money came out for it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning of that, the investment bank of Morgan Chase, they came out with a report in early January or February of 2020. It said, essentially, small businesses have 27 days of working capital. That was widely distributed in March when everything hit. It's just like, what are we going to do? We got to get this money out. We got to do something quick because businesses will run out of money in 30 days. So early on, I agree with you. I saw that there was a big need for that. But yeah.
So basically what we did though,
too much, maybe.
Well, probably too much, but what we did was what we took was a proactive stance, and we invited young people into the classroom, basically young talented individuals, and said, look, based on where we are, it's our reality. And this is a Leaders in Life group and kids that I've talked to across the last 20 years. And basically what we did was came out with programs that supported moving talent forward. So we created Club Tel-Tec, which is a pilot program. We connected with the B3K. We were talking about that earlier. The B3K is an organization collaborative of people trying to come together to create smart businesses, creating great jobs for the community, and great jobs meaning at a wage that's affordable moving forward. We connected to that, and basically we have a program that is not rolled out yet, but it's in collaboration, which is a minority and female business leadership development program, which allows basically us to connect with helping the baseline as while they're excelling these other areas. And what we did is came into collaboration with the Maxwell Group, which basically came together and formed a DISC analysis to help us to help youth to understand what their soft skills, communication piece look like. And then from that, we jumped into creating a workshop that is designed for leaders called the Developing Your Leadership Within 2.0. And this is working with Dr. Robinson and others at CSUB, and also working with, I'm thinking it'll come to me shortly, but basically working with other consultants to make sure that the program is successful and helping the youth to basically develop their soft skills in small business ownership, to develop vision, values, and influence and motivation of successful leaders. And this is all online. And what we do is we bring leaders in the current industry and to talk about them. And we bring them the power of influence, the power of character. And basically it helps them to figure out how to connect going into this new digital transition. So that's what we have working now and what we're doing. And the central piece is it's hard work. It's hard work because you have to do the research. You have to come up with a vision that's sustainable, that works out to 2 to 3 years. You have to move from hands-on to the digital touch. But here's the key thing, something different. You and I have always worked. This new economy coming up, they want to work, but they want freedom. They want the freedom to be able to work remotely as well as time back. So the goal is how do you work to unite this generation? And this is one of the things that we're doing in some of the services we're providing to you.
Great stuff, my man.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Hey, we have a question.
Yeah.
How do you recommend adjusting the workplace in order to create a better environment for all employees? And what is the structure you find critical?
The first thing that I recommend in being able to adjust the workplace in order to create a better environment is for whoever is the leadership team, that you walk and ask the question, what is it that you feel we can do to improve? And basically, when they tell you their truth does not come with critical challenges, or it doesn't come with punishment. I think the idea of your leadership having a fundamental plan in place to be able to create a better environment for them, and that is, for example, do you give time off for job well done? The incentive would be not a Starbucks, not a certificate of appreciation, but true time off. That is one way to adjust the workplace to a positive way. What is the structure? I think the structure is from the bottom up. I think typically when you look at the pyramid, we have the president, CEOs, and leadership team at the top. I think you have to reverse it. I think that basically the leadership team has to start walking the halls or walking the fields, talking to the employees, and here's the key word, be quiet and listen and respond to the listen, not to what you think is not going to work. So work alongside the employees to create a better work environment. That's what's worked for us.
Well, the next question is actually a point that I agree with. You are a great leader and business owner, Mr. Clayton. Thanks for sharing.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I think my goal is to come alongside. I see myself as a seed planner, and I try to come alongside businesses and personal friends to give them tools to make them better. And indirectly, I receive and I take and I use that to try to offer up services and opportunities to our youth. So thank you for that comment.
The next question is the California Dream Fund only in English? Actually, there's a cohort being done in the Central California SBDC region right now in Spanish. So we do have one in Spanish that's going on. I believe it's going on right now, or will be starting soon. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to contact our office at 654-2856 and talk to Iris. Jumping into the chat real quick, you'll see that Maureen has provided links where if you want more access and more program information on the non-performing arts grant program, there's that link that you can grab. Also information where you can jump into with the Kern, the California micro business grant for $2,500. Also a little bit there for Mono County and their forgivable program, and the employee retention tax credit, page 2 resources and information on that. And also that means no one actually, well, of course, we had a little problem with the chat there, but did not put any of the other, I guess you were happy with the selections in the poll. So let's jump ahead just quickly, and we do have coming up, we do have our capital summits coming up. We're returning to those in in person. I have mentioned this before, that our very first Access to Capital event back in 2013 that we did at the CSU SBDC, Mr. Morgan Clayton was a featured speaker there and provided a lot of good information, even back then, even when you were just a young fellow.
You bet. I do want to chime in and give you the team of people working in collaboration on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, the Empowered to Lead Consulting Services, along with Upside Productions, basically working with the B3K. They are champions working with me on this, and I want to make sure I didn't miss saying that.
Is there more you want to add out of that?
Oh, I think what I'm hoping for is that the city and all the other people, JP Lake and all those that are collaboratively coming together, I think everybody has a desire to do the right thing. And I think the whole idea, what I just want to add, is we have a very strong united front here in Kern County to do that. And that united front is simply this: people who want to see this happen, just move out of the way so that the good news of the B3K can happen. And it's in collaboration. And if you feel a concern, voice it so the voice can be heard. And for me, when we look down into the pits of our community and we see the underserved minority and female communities or small businesses that are suffering, speak up so that we can make a connection to give you what you need. And a lot of the needs will be delivered online at a cost that everyone can afford. My key word is let's get united and do it because we want Tel-Tec to get, not only Tel-Tec to get better, but this is what I usually tell people. Basically, when you look at Kern County, we don't have a beach. We don't have a beach, and we don't always have the best air. But we can have the best youth development programs, the best employment programs across the country if we just unite. That's the key word that I want to share. That's the key.
Hey, our water's warmer.
Our water's warmer, which means you can take a warm shower. That's a problem.
You can go down to our fine swimming pools and jump in there year round almost these days, it seems like.
But solar, we generate a lot of energy with the sun. So we have the blessing of the sun. Through solar, we have a right platform, but I somehow just really am hoping a collaborative effort between oil and energy and everything else, because with that, we can soar. Well, let's just see where we go with it. That's my hope. That's my hope.
Well, there's great things happening in the community, B3K, a lot of things going on community-wise with a lot of the programs that are coming down. Obviously, the big thing hanging over us is the state's kind of relentless attack on our energy sector, being our fossil fuel petroleum sector. Yeah. But a lot of things, a lot of great things that are happening in this community, and a lot of things are going to be moving forward.
Yeah, but I'm just hoping that what they would do with the energy and oil and everything is that someone really needs to do a white paper to share with our community and others what exactly the industry does outside of producing. They support education. They give support to inner city people. They give donations. But the point is, the voice of that is not loud enough. It needs to be louder, because if the industry goes away and it's only dependent upon solar or energy, where's the support for the inner city and others are going to come from? Not to say that they do it all, but they do a lot that I'm aware of. And there needs to be a balance, a work-life balance. And I just don't know what it looks like, but I'm just hoping that our government, our officials recognize that balance, along with clean air and all the other things, because I know the industries are trying their best, but to shift from something that is basically a lifeline doesn't make any sense to me. However, we'll wait and see how it goes, Kelly. I just don't know.
Interesting times.
Yes.
Interesting times. Okay, great. Well, and this is part of the reason why Tasha's not joining us today, is because you and I can sit here and talk till 2 o'clock. And it's such a huge issue, that secession and that transition. And you're going through it, and it's a full hour in itself. And we want you back later this summer or fall.
Oh, you can have me back. I told Tasha that we'll do a transition kind of partnership of transitioning the legacy of the business. Also, I think talking about some of the leadership development programs, maybe having Dr. Robinson on and T to talk about just where the programs are, and then connecting it. So just let us know and be excited to share it. But right now, we're digging deep, we're holding tight, because we want to see Kern County be successful.
Great.
There it is.
Great, fantastic stuff. And, ran a little bit long today, but I'm pretty good at that sometimes. So we will be back next week with number 126. We'll get out of here reasonably, 5 minutes late. But we'll be back next week for 126. We'll have Kurt Friedman, and Kurt is a consultant at the Cal Poly SBDC, the hothouse SBDC, where they do a lot of equity and investment. And we're going to be talking a lot of things that we don't talk about a lot of times, and that is pitch decks and customer development, fun things like that from SLO next Wednesday, August the 10th. Morgan, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. It was a lot of fun. Look forward to our next time that we get together and get to do this because it's enjoyable.
Well, thank you, Kelly. And again, thank the audience. And family business is everything in Kern County, but we also know corporate business is right alongside. So let's unite and get it done in Kern County and make it work. Thank you again, Kelly, for having me.
Anytime, anytime. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up today. So for Morgan Clayton, I'm Kelly Bearden, and we'll be back next week, number 126. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.